All right, you are now live.
Okay, thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. This is a meeting of HRM's Active Transportation Advisory Committee. This is February the 13th. And I'll begin by reminding everyone again that this is live streamed, so please be visible on camera. We'll start with the call to order and land acknowledgement. So I called you to order. The land acknowledgement is as follows. The Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaties signed in this territory and recognizes that we are all treaty people. I'll proceed with the roll call. If you can just answer when I call your name so that we can hear that you've got your video and audio on. So just to remind you again, my name is Hugh Millward. I'll chair the meeting. The vice chair is Douglas Wetmore. Hello, Douglas.
Present. Hello, Hugh. Present. Thank you.
Okay. And we have with us, I hope, Councillor John Young. Is Councillor John Young with us?
No, Councillor Young is here to join us.
Okay. And I understand the guest councillor is Trish Purdy. Hello, Trish.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Okay. And then next, Paul Young. Is Paul Young here? No. Nathan Tuck.
Yes, I'm here.
Are you there, Nathan?
Yes, I think my image is frozen, but I am here.
Okay, we can't see you. I can hear you, though.
Yeah, apologies. I think my image is frozen. I might try leave and come back in.
Okay, fine. Thank you. And next, Holly Woodill.
I'm here, Hugh.
Okay, thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
Annika Ropel.
Yep. Hi, Hugh.
Hello. Elizabeth Pugh.
I am here. Hello.
Hello, Elizabeth. Peter Zimmer.
Here.
Hello, Peter. Milena Casanavicius.
I'm here, Hugh. I do not have my camera as I am a day and a half past breast cancer surgery, so I'm present listening, but you do not want to look at me today. But
Sure.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. And Miles McCormick.
Present, Hugh.
Hello, Miles. And Glenn Babcock.
Present.
Okay. That's my list. Did I miss anyone? Okay.
Okay, just to let you know, Chair, Councillor Jenny Young is now with us.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. And our staff people, well, firstly, Olawumi is our clerk's office staff person. And then we have David McIsaac, Manager of Active Transportation. Is David with us?
Yep, I'm here.
Hello, David.
Hello.
Turim Anders, I see you there.
Yep, here.
Hello. And okay, that's it. So you all received, hopefully, the minutes of the last meeting, the draft minutes that were circulated. Were there any approved errors or omissions? No? I hear none. So I'll call for a motion to approve the minutes as circulated.
I can move that, Hugh. Douglas here.
Thank you, Douglas. And we need a seconder.
Holly will second it.
Thank you, Holly. So the motion is that the minutes of December 4th, 2024 be approved as circulated. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
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 And any opposed, say nay or raise your hand. Okay, none opposed, so that That passes. The minutes are approved as circulated. And we'll move on to the order of business. Olawumi, were there any additions or deletions from the clerk's office?
No additions or deletions from the clerk's office. However, we have a deferred item. That's item 9.2.1, Spryfield Local Activations Update.
Yes.
So the member, Anika Ruppel, is requesting this item to be deferred to the next meeting of Active Transportation Agenda Committee.
Okay, correct. Annika?
Yeah, we just weren't able to get some of the other folks in
Sure.
for
Okay.
that presentation.
So-
So if we could do it next month, that would be great.
Okay. Well, that's a motion to amend the order of business. So we need a seconder for that. Anyone?
Holly will second.
Thank you, Holly. And I'll move to the question. Those in favor, please say aye or raise your
Aye.
hand.
Aye.
All right.
All right.
And anyone opposed, please say nay or raise your hand. No opposition. So that's the amendment to the order of business that was circulated. And the motion carries. Item 4, business arising from the minutes. There was none. Item 5, call for declaration of conflict of interests any committee member that feels that they have a conflict of interest relating to the agenda, this is the time to declare it. Okay, no declaration. Item 6, deferred business, there is none. Item 7 is correspondence, petitions and delegations. Again, Olawumi, was there any correspondence received at the clerk's office?
No correspondence was received from the clerk's office.
Okay, thank you. And similarly, any petitions received?
No petitions also was received from the clerk's office.
Okay, thank you. And we have no presentations. So item 8, information items brought forward. There are none, which brings us to item 9, which is a staff report on Cherrybrook Walking Audit Recap. And I understand both Turim Anders, Transportation Planner, and Catherine Drosbeck, Program Manager with Hike Nova Scotia, are to make the presentation. Are you both making the presentation? Is it?
Yes, as well as one community member from Cherrybrook. I'm just looking to see if she made it on the call, Sherry. So there's 3 of us all together.
Oh, okay. Well, whoever's got the presentation to lead us off, please go ahead.
Yeah, okay, I'll share my screen. Oh, it's saying host disabled screen sharing.
Oh. Olawumi, do you have the presentation? Can you share it?
I think if allow me for makes you co-host, then
Yeah,
you should be able to share.
I'm doing that now.
And there's just a note there in the chat that Sherry needs to be promoted so she can.
Okay, yeah, you can go ahead to share your screen.
Fantastic.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, everyone can see that?
Yes.
Great. All right. I think I'm going to start. Well, thanks everyone for allowing us some time to share our walking audit project that we undertook with Cherrybrook. You can move to the next slide. So some introductions. My name is Catherine Drosbach. I work with Hike Nova Scotia, and there's two others of us that are going to be presenting in the next few minutes, Anders and Sherry. So they can introduce themselves now if they want.
Sure, I can go. Yeah, my name's Anders Turum. I'm an active transportation planner with HRM.
I am Sherry. Can you hear me? Yeah, I'm Sherry Smith. I'm a community member with Cherrybrook Lakeland.
All right. And I guess a tiny correction to the agenda. Although it says staff report, only one of us are staff, and that's Anders, and the other two members are outside organizations. All right. So three objectives for our chat today with you. First of all, we'd like to share and discuss results of the walking audit in Cherrybrook. And then HRM, we'd like to recommend that HRM staff participate in future walking audits. Anders will talk about that a little more later. And we do recommend that construction does proceed for sidewalk for Cherrybrook, specifically Cherrybrook Road. We'll also discuss some next steps. All right, just to give you a little bit of context, we at Hike Nova Scotia were able to do this project with many communities around the province last year to do walking audits through a Connect2 grant. And our goal with that was to improve walkability, I guess, long-term with communities through engagement and awareness of challenges folks face when trying to walk around their communities. And Cherrybrook was one of the, actually it should be 11 communities across the province that we were able to do this pilot with last year. And the date that we did the actual Cherrybrook walking audit was November 2nd of last year. And yeah, and just so you know, in terms of who organized the walking audit in Cherrybrook, there was three of us. One was Carmelie. I don't know if she's on the live stream somewhere. So Carmelie is a community member and a community mobilization member in Cherrybrook, as well as myself and Anders. And just to actually expand on Carmelie, part of the reason we went to Cherrybrook is that Carmelie is one of our walk leaders within our NS Walks program. But part of the challenge was organizing a walk in Cherrybrook was actually the safety of walking in Cherrybrook because of the lack of supportive infrastructure. So that's how we got her on board. So that's our little bit of background there. And in terms of who participated the day of the walking audit, just to give you that context, we were fortunate to have several staff from HRM participate, including a planner, an engineer, manager of urban forestry, as well as community members, member of Nova Scotia staff from Communities, Culture, Tourism and Heritage, community mobilization team, community health board member, Ecology Action Center planner, myself as a Hike Nova Scotia staff. Unfortunately, our municipal council was unable to attend that day, so we're happy she's here for the debrief. So we had 10 people participate.
Yeah, thanks, Catherine. I can speak to why we chose Cherrybrook for the walking audit. So first off, it's a community that we've received many requests for new sidewalk over the years. So for background, there's no sidewalk on the segment of road where we were, but at the same time, there are bus stops. So bus stops with no sidewalk is always a red flag. Cherrybrook is also a minor collector road. It's also in close proximity to a junior high school, several places of worship, a community center, and a new playground. And then there's also relatively high levels of socioeconomic need. So we have suspected for a while that this is a community in need of a sidewalk. But we also thought this would be a good opportunity for a walking audit, just as a way to enable staff and community members to meet up, knowledge share, and just have experience in this important community. So the walking segment we actually took started at the high school, at the junior high school, which is at the bottom right of the image here, then ended at the Cherrybrook United Baptist Church at the top left. So this is about 1 kilometer in length, and we walked on the south/west side of the road.
Okay, so just to for your information, the tool that we used is a bit of a hybrid tool that for our walkability audit that, as you can see there, measures several elements of walkability, including sidewalks, overall appeal, safety, crossing, traffic, and facilities, and then an overall rating of how walkable the community is. So that's a tool that everyone had a copy of, and then we compiled the results that we're going to go over next. And Sherry can take it over from here.
Sorry, I'm on mute. So the results from the walking audit were for sidewalks, we rated it as 0 because there were no sidewalks. The appeal was 9 out of 15. Safety was 4 out of 15. Crossings was 6 out of 25. Traffic was 11 out of 25. And facilities was 6 out of 15. Our overall rating for the walking results was 30 out of 120, which came out to be a disaster for walking for homeowners within the communities. The key findings from the audit was no sidewalks, paved shoulders, or separate space for walking. Steep ditches at several points along the walk. Lots of concerns because some areas were over a stream or a barrier that they had no barriers for those that if there was a car coming, if they had to get on the side of the road, there was no place for whoever was walking to go to, and it's concerns because there's so many seniors within the area as well. It's high safety concern from the community. Lots of curves through the walk that we did from the school to the church, and lots of areas that were not very visible. You couldn't see a car coming unless it was, close to you coming in. And if a senior was out walking or someone that had a cane or a walker, it would be very hard for them to get over to the side safely and quickly. Quotes from the walking audit from the participants are the segments were, there were lots of cars, incredibly dangerous for walkers, and extremely unsafe to walk. Also, inadequate space for bus stops. There are bus stops along the route. Some of the signs, as you can see in this picture here, are fixed in a ditch, so it's hard to see. During the summertime when the trees are in full bloom, that sign will be completely covered. So if a bus is coming down and they miss the stop, or may not see a person that's standing there as well. So a lot of times some of the residents have complained that they have missed their stop or the bus went by them because they didn't see them there. If they're taking the bus at nighttime, there's no lights, so visibility is very poor as well. There's no benches or anywhere place for seniors to sit down if they're waiting for the bus. There's no garbage cans along the route as well. And it's not safe walking conditions for anyone during day or night.
Yeah, so I can speak to the recommendations coming out of this and next steps. So first off, this walking audit indicated that there is a high need for a sidewalk on Cherrybrook Road for the segment that we walked, which again is from the junior high school to the church. So this aligns with what staff had previously thought and what the results of our sidewalk assessment tool indicated as well. So moving forward on this recommendation that sidewalk be pursued, I guess speaking more specifically, we recommend that the detailed design occur for this new sidewalk, which would be kind of the next stage of planning for this. Additionally, we recommend that following that detailed design, that it ultimately be constructed at some point. When this occurs in actuality, however, will be determined by budget, which has been reduced somewhat recently. So giving a specific date for when this is difficult at this time. Lastly, the walking audit, I think, presents a useful opportunity for staff to meet with community members, get an on-the-ground understanding of the walking experience in different communities, and in general, just a useful form of public engagement that I see being useful moving forward. So that's the end of our presentation. Happy to take any questions or comments folks may have.
Okay, thank you very much, all three of you. As is our usual practice, we'll go through a speaking list. Just to remind everyone, when you have comments or questions, that you have initially 5 minutes to speak. And then if we go to a second round on the speaking list, you get an additional 3 minutes. So I'll call people's name and see if you have comments or questions. First, Paul Young, and I guess Paul isn't here still, correct? Right. Holly Woodill.
Yeah, I'm vaguely familiar with the road, and is there any way it could be expedited, that brought up in the list of places to action? Or does the staff know that they can change priorities at all before someone gets hit and killed or badly hurt?
Do we have an answer to that?
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. I assume David might have something to speak to as well. David McIsaac being. So yeah, I would say based off of our observations and the sidewalk assessment tool and how we usually prioritize sidewalk, Cherrybrook Road does make sense to be generally prioritized above other high-need sidewalks around the municipality. I think this means that we can move forward with some of the planning stages and detailed design to kind of plan out how the sidewalk would actually fit in along the road. In terms of construction and actually building it, I'm not sure how much we can do, just given some of the budget constraints that we're facing. But yeah, maybe David, I don't know if you can speak to that a little bit more.
Hi, sorry, my video for some reason is not working right now. Hope you can hear me. I'd love to prioritize it. I guess we kind of have to wait and see what we get as a capital budget and a capital plan coming out of the current discussions. So council, I think, more or less is finished looking at the capital budget and the plan. And right now, that plan for active transportation, new sidewalks for the next 4 years is it's challenging. So whether and when Cherrybrook sidewalk could be part of that is still to be determined. I guess I'd echo what Anders said. If at least we can get a bit more planning, design work done, that will help us, advance it, get a better idea on costs, and that kind of thing. So that's probably our short-term goal for this one. And we've got like 160 kilometers of high-need sidewalk gaps across the municipality. So this one is important, but there's also lots of other important ones too. So, but this one has our full attention.
I understand, but you can try.
Okay, thank you for that question, Holly. I think we were all interested to know that. Annika Ropel, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I love the use of a walking audit, and I think this is great stuff to see.
Yes, thank you. Elizabeth Pugh?
Nothing from me, thank you.
Okay, Elizabeth. Did Councillor John Young join us?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello, Councillor. Did you have questions or comments?
Yeah, I got a couple.
Go ahead.
How many allowed? 3?
Well, you've got 5 minutes anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So for the walking audit, how do you pick the route? Number 1. Number 2, is the walking audit a precursor to potential active transportation? And number 3, what makes the necessary potential infrastructure a priority?
I can do the first one if HRM staff want to do the second two. So in terms of choosing a route for a walking audit, John, what we generally encourage a community to do is look at where people would want to walk if they could walk safely, or where they're already walking because they're trying to get from A to B or B to C. So in this case, obviously having a junior high school means kids are in that community and we want them to be able to safely get around. So we based it from there. And then of course the church in Cherrybrook is a hub, not unlike a lot of other communities as well. So and in between there. So that's kind of how we based Cherrybrook, and unless Sherry or Anders want to add on to that, but that's kind of generally how we encourage communities to look at that. Where would they like to walk if they could? Yeah.
So Catherine, it's not based on the length, like 2 or 3 kilometers or anything like that.
No, for a walking audit, we generally stick to 2 kilometers or under, just because it takes a while when you're moving slowly and making notes, and you might have folks who walk a little slower. So 2 kilometers would be about the max we would recommend for a walking audit.
Okay, thank you.
And your second question, Councillor?
My second question was, is the walking audit a precursor to potential active transportation?
Yeah,
and that's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. So the walking audit is it's not a promise that anything is going to get built necessarily, but part of the reason we chose Cherrybrook Road as having a walking audit was because it was already on our radar for a while. It was something that was kind of in our plans, maybe not officially, but it was something that we wanted to do in the nearish future. And we thought that doing a walking audit before that kind of detailed design work is done would give staff a good way to kind of identify, what some of the challenges are, hear from community members on what opportunities there might be, and kind of just get a better understanding of the road before some of that work is already done. So it's not exactly a precursor, but we wouldn't choose a street for a walking audit if we had little reason of actually doing anything about the recommendations that we hear from it. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yep, thank you.
Okay.
If I still have time quickly for my third, I'd just like to follow up with what Holly mentioned. How do we make these potential infrastructure projects a priority for the active transportation and their budget?
Probably David should answer that one, I think.
I think, I mean, we need as much funding and internal capacity to do these projects as we can get. But, this is one of the many funding pressures that we have. So that's about all I can say, Councillor. It's part of the discussions that folks are having at council right now. The more funding and capacity that we've got, obviously, the more work we can do, and it's part of that eternal question about what the priority should be and how we should allocate our limited dollars.
Thank you, David.
Okay, thank you. Perhaps Councillor Purdy has questions or comments?
I do. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and thank you for this presentation. I think this walking audit is a fantastic idea. And I would have been there, but my son, who graduated this year from St. Mary's, they won they got, he's a football player. So they had a Loney Bowl in Quebec that Saturday. So last game of his career, I'm in the mall and I have to go. So I missed this walking audit for that game, which was the worst football game in history. It was such a devastating loss. They almost won. I love how all the staff are there. I love how you're looking at this from every single angle, because that is so important. I was curious as to the test that you had. Everything was out of 25. I was wondering, what did the 25 represent? Like for traffic, it was 11 out of 25. So what was 25 based on? I was just wondering. And that's my question about funding. David, you're getting asked all the hard questions here today, but what about outside funding? What about it's like federal government, provincial government? So how are we accessing some of the grant money that could be utilized in an active transportation project like this one?
Why don't we go with the audit scoring first?
Yeah, I can. It's probably easier if at some point I just send the audit tool out so folks can see it more clearly. But yeah, basically the whole overall average was out of 120, and each section, depending on how many questions there were, had like out of 5, so it added up to 25 kind of thing. So yeah, it's easier if you see it.
Oh,
but,
okay.
yeah.
I was just like, what does this mean? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. And David, would you care to answer the other question?
Yeah, so there are, as folks know, every once in a while we get invitations to submit applications to different infrastructure programs. There is one right now that the federal government's got, and they're looking for ideas. And then it's sort of looking for the projects that fit into their criteria. It has to be finished by such and such, has to have this level of design ready. So this project is one of the ones that we're looking at for that one. And hopefully other ones will be coming along. I think pretty much the story for AT and infrastructure in Halifax is that it's going to be difficult to build a whole lot unless we kind of get that funding support from the other orders of government. And we are, so I don't want to say that it's not coming. And I think this would be a nice one for those orders of government to consider.
Oh, I agree. Okay, thank you. As long as we're keeping an eye out for those opportunities and taking advantage of whatever we can.
Okay,
absolutely. And, I would encourage Catherine and Ms. Smith and Anders to take this presentation to some of Elizabeth's colleagues in the province and stuff like that. It doesn't hurt just to let those other orders of government and the MLAs and such just get it in front of them as well. That always helps.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Milena Kasanavicius.
Thanks, Hugh. I think you'll get my last name by the time we're all done on this committee. What do you think? I'm smiling. Catherine, Anders, and Sherry, nice to not see everybody online. I did this walk in the North End, November 2nd. I believe it was the same day in the morning. I think this is a fabulous project that Hike Nova Scotia and Anders and HRM team are running. I will say this is nothing, to me, it resonates a boiling pot of diarrhea, the results of this. City Council, the province, and our mayor, let me just put it out there, who clearly enjoys driving and would rather see cars and large trucks, needs to wake up a little bit more. So I'll start with this. Are there any other portions that are needed that need a sidewalk? Very clearly, we in this province have had too many deaths. We in this province are suffering from mental health and illness. And the fact that people can't get out and walk safely, and this is for the 2 councillors that are sitting here today and the rest, we need the sidewalks. We need the sidewalks more and above them. We need wider traffic lanes. And I will even say even more than we need bike lanes at this point. We need people to get out, to be able to walk. And let's not forget the people with disabilities. So back to my question, and maybe it's Sherry that can answer that. Is this the only section in your community that needs a sidewalk? Or there are many numerous other sections, which I suspect?
There's many other sections. Cherry Brook is sort of, the main road goes through a curve. So at that curve, there's another part of Cherry Brook that's isolated, and it, there's families, there are homes, there's children there, and they use that road as well to go to the main road to get to school, to the high school, and to the church. Last year, there was an incident on Cherry Brook Road just before the church. One of the students got off the bus and she was hit by a truck. And it was probably due to the road being so narrow, person driving through might not have seen her at the time she was crossing. So, she was hurt. She had to go to the hospital. So that was a major concern from the community. Lots of seniors have also approached, various people through the community asking why they can't get sidewalks. They'd like to get out and be more active, but they don't feel safe right now, the way the road is.
Thank you.
And also through Lake Loon and then Raleigh Road, several homes there, family homes that don't have sidewalks. They have speed bumps, but the trucks and cars still speed down through it. My mom lives on Raleigh Road, which is another high traffic road. So they get a lot of the dump trucks coming through. Nova Scotia Power trucks go through, trucks to the water. So, all of those roads, they do have a lot of children that have playgrounds in the area. And it's a big concern for the community, that they don't have, that they cannot go out and enjoy their community and walk safely.
Thank you. I'll comment on that as well. So I live in the northwest end, I guess, now District 9, across from the Forum, and I fear in the past 3 to 4 or 5 years, just crossing my own street here, we've just been told that a young woman was hit. If the two councillors can't hear what we need the budgets, it's you who are going to be sitting here and fighting. And Catherine and Anders, push forward, go everywhere else, look to the feds. Certainly the feds are giving for bike lanes money, 3.9 for the Almond Street bike lane, which has become a danger for many people in the crosswalks. David, by the way, we didn't get our 3/4 curb that we were all excited about. Okay, I think council can do a lot better for the safety of their constituents, and I think council needs to kick their heels in and find the budgets rather than spending it elsewhere. End of thought. And I really, really, really appreciate what Anders and Catherine and Sherry have done here today. Thank you.
Could I respond to Melina?
Sure. Yes.
Melina, you wouldn't have a bigger advocate for AT on council than me. I've been working to get active transportation multi-use pathway since 2015 in Lucasville. So I'm all for it. And David can attest to that. Yeah. So just to let you know, as a counselor, I see the importance of that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Young. I'm aware of that as well, because when I was sighted, I used to drive Lucasville, and it was scary just driving. And now, as a person who's blind, it's nobody walks there anymore. So good on you. Thank you. End of thought.
Okay, thank you, Melina. Miles McCormick, do you have any questions or concerns?
No questions, but I appreciate the presentation, and again, to stress the importance of safety, in particular for community hubs, if I want to refer to the church, but even more so with regards to the school. I think that this, I've been involved in this kind of process before with another school, but we didn't have this audit, which I wish we had. And what we did is we walked students with the mayor to show the dangers. So again, highlighting the importance of safety for the children, for community, etc. Accolades to all involved, and any way we can support this process in other communities, I think is very, very important. So again, thank you.
Okay, Miles, thank you, and I appreciate your experience as a teacher and vice principal. So thank you. Glenn Babcock.
Okay, not to confuse different projects, but we went through some of this last summer in Porters Lake. Although we did not have a walkability test, and I kind of wish we had, but the comments made about Cherrybrook Road, I find are very similar to what I experience when I walk number 7, where I live towards the Superstore. Steep ditches on one side, lots of places where the shoulder is very narrow, curved roads, lots of traffic, no crosswalks anywhere, just and being visually impaired as I am, I look about 6 times both ways before I run across the road because I don't know for sure if there's a vehicle coming out of the shadows. So I know that it got the city ended up going out to the community, and the community sort of resoundingly said no thank you to the sidewalks because it was going to mean a 0.05% increase in their property taxes. So I guess one of my questions, and we didn't talk too much about the cost of this other than to say that there really isn't money available, but the 2.7 kilometers they were proposing for Porters Lake was apparently going to cost about $3 million. So that means that the 1 kilometer for Cherrybrook is probably somewhere around $1 million. And I don't know whether Cherrybrook falls sort of in the core part of the city where they're already paying a property tax that covers sidewalks or not. It's quite possible that putting the sidewalks in there would mean a property tax increase to not just the people on Cherrybrook Road, but a catchment area of about 2 kilometers on either side, I think. If I remember the how things went in Porters Lake last year. So to the point that a couple of people made where nobody seems to walk there anymore, it's kind of that way in Porters Lake. All the people who were voting no for the sidewalks drive. For those of us who don't have the option to drive, I can get a ride, but if I want to walk it myself, I feel like it's dangerous. But I don't see other people walking it for probably that same reason. So I'm very sympathetic to the people in Cherrybrook. I also think, just commenting on this, but HRM has gotten to be huge, and so much of it is rural areas now that the number of locations like this that require sidewalks for safety has actually grown exponentially. Now, there's a couple things. We talked about different funding sources, so I did mention the property tax side of it. One of the points I made for Porters Lake, and I made it to the city and the provincial members that we have here, was there is new housing development that's happening in Porters Lake. There may be new housing development that's happening around Cherrybrook. I don't really know the area all that well. I just wanted to point out in my life I have bought houses new a couple of times. One of the hardest things to adjust to when you're buying a new house is that you have to pay HST on it. So I've always kind of thought that's okay when you're buying a new house in a new area, because the money that you're giving to the provincial government and the federal government is going to build infrastructure that's going to make that community better. Well, looking at what's happened around Porters Lake with my new house here, when I paid my HST on it, maybe there has been some money going back to infrastructure from the federal and provincial governments, but it hasn't gone into any sidewalks, I can tell you that much. Or bus stops, or better lighting, or crosswalks, or traffic lights, or anything like that. So I do think that there needs to be money coming from other levels of government, and I think that there are people moving into the neighborhoods who are providing some of that money, and it should be used for those purposes. So that's my rant. Suffice it to say, I'm fully supportive of Cherrybrook's situation, as I am supportive of so many other areas in the rural parts of HRM that desperately need these sidewalks to get people out walking, as Melina says. And then the last thing I would point out, and it was already talked about in terms of active transportation infrastructure, but if you're going to build a sidewalk near a junior high school, it occurs to me that there are going to be kids who might be able to take advantage of that, able to ride bikes to school. So maybe it would be worthwhile looking at accommodating bikes and scooters and other forms of active transportation if you're going to build a sidewalk around. And that's my comments.
Thank you, Glenn. Those were some interesting, useful ideas. And I don't know if David perhaps can comment on what the tax rate is in the Cherrybrook area and whether it would be affected by a sidewalk.
No. So Cherrybrook residents are within the urban tax boundary. So the rate that they pay means that they are eligible for new sidewalks within their existing tax rate. So that's one small hurdle that we wouldn't have to look at in Cherrybrook.
Okay, thank you. Douglas Wetmore, do you have any questions or concerns? Douglas?
I hit the wrong button. Sorry about that. There we go. Yes, I've got one quick question, and apologies if this was already answered. In that little evaluation, was speed on the speed limits on the streets considered as part of that traffic rating? And I guess related to that, would lowering that speed limit influence that rating?
Yes and yes, in short, definitely. Yeah.
Well, then it sounds like I doubt it's going to take us anywhere above that 50%. I think it was 25% total overall, maybe 20, but sounds like a great short-term solution would be to, at the very least, look at reducing speeds in that neighborhood, a change that realistically should be quick to implement and maybe make it a little bit safer for pedestrians walking in the area. Beyond that, I'm going to repeat something that's probably been said at least a dozen times in this committee, and I hope both councillors on call are listening very well. Step 1, make it slightly less convenient to use your car. Step 2, make it costly to use your car. And step 3, use those costs to fund active transit if we are really struggling that much to find money for it. That is all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Douglas. Peter Zimmer, did we call on you?
No, you haven't yet.
I'm sorry.
Okay. The survey was wonderful as far as it went. It did not go far enough. I would like to know how many people are locked in their homes because they can't walk on those streets. They can't ride a bike along those streets, and they can't afford or don't have a car, or are too young to own a car, or disabled in some ways. They are locked out. That's not a mobility for them. And the overall aspect today is I'm angry and I'm disappointed, enormously disappointed at the city council, at the staff, at the provincial government, because they are building goddamn superhighways to make cars go faster when what kills and injures people are not other cyclists, are not scooter users, are not e-bike users. They're cars and trucks and vehicles that go too fast. And there's a lot we can do to limit speeds of those cars that doesn't cost a hell of a lot. Big concrete bollards. The Jersey barriers are a good starting place. Squeeze the damn roads, make them narrower, make the cars run slower. That will start saving lives. Then you have to build the mobility options that actually work for people, and they will use them if you have good sidewalks and bike paths and, and make the cars more congenial companions on the public ways. you're going to have more people using them very willingly. You know, it's like if you don't have a bridge across a river, you know, nobody has the intention to drive to the other side. You build a bridge, and all of a sudden you find there's lots of reasons to go across that river. So you gotta, you know, and it's certainly true with cars. If you build a bigger, wider road, boy, there are more cars on it, and they're more inclined to go fast. So let's build a bigger, wider option for the, I don't know, 50% of the people who can't, don't want to, would prefer not to use a car for every damn little trip. And I think, you know, Cherrybrook, that's a sin. I mean, I'm frankly, you know, I can't figure out other words to say it. I look at that, I'm angry because this is a sinful lack of attention to the proper things. So I'll stop. That's my rant.
Okay, thank you, Peter. I don't think it was a question, but it was a good rant. That just leaves me with just one quick comment, I guess, or a couple really. I certainly like the idea of the audit. I think it's excellent, and should be used more frequently, I think. One thing that occurred to me, because the junior high school is one end of this particular route, firstly, I assume the speed limit is somewhat lower immediately adjacent to the school. I certainly hope so. But whether or not it is, just to remind the committee and the councillors that HRM Council passed a motion that was forwarded from this committee and through the Traffic Standing Committee, Transportation Standing Committee, to support active school travel, and particularly in close proximity to a school like the junior high school. That's an added reason, an added argument for not just maybe a sidewalk in this area, but in fact a multi-use path, because that would make cycling safer as well. So I just wonder if the planners can incorporate that in their plan and in their application for funding as well, in the prioritizing of this particular project. I don't know if there's any comeback on that from perhaps from the planner.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. So during the walking audit discussion, which happened after we actually did the walk, we did talk about having a multi-use path as an alternative to a sidewalk. And there is nothing significant opposed. No one was significantly opposed to that. And personally, I think it's a great idea for the reasons you and others have mentioned, just enabling people to walk, but also roll more easily, bike, scooter, skateboard, whatever. So I think, yeah, moving forward, that definitely is something we could consider. It doesn't have to be just a sidewalk or nothing. It could be a multi-use path as well, perhaps.
Okay, thank you. So we've gone through the speaking list, but does anyone else or anyone wish to come back with a second question or concern? If
yes,
so, could you?
I
Sorry.
would. I've got my hand up. I'll lower it now.
Okay, I was about to say, put your hand up. Yeah.
The point I wanted to add on, and everybody's points were very good. Thank you. Right now we have snow on the ground, and I bet you there isn't a single inch that someone can walk along that road with the snowplows having cleared the road. And I imagine there's not a whole lot of room for someone to stop at the bus stop and catch their bus into the grocery store or work or wherever. So that makes it even more dangerous for them. the transit system is part of the active transportation, as far as I'm concerned, and it should always be considered as high priority areas, because people without cars, that's where they have to go. And I'll leave it there. But everybody made really great points. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Holly. Next we have Nathan and then Milena. Nathan.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, the walking audit sounds fantastic. I think a footpath in that community would be a fantastic addition, especially for the school kids there. Just following on from Hugh and Glenn's comments regarding sort of a broader consideration of other active transportation uses, and this is more for David and Anders. What would be the trigger for actually considering other AT uses? So as you're prioritizing whether, when this footpath may be installed or looked at more closely, is there a policy or a procedure in place for considering other uses when you're developing these plans and prioritizing these projects?
I can speak to it a little bit. David might have some more information than I can provide, but there's not like a standardized process, as far as I'm aware, in terms of like whether a street should get a multi-use pathway or just a sidewalk. I guess like some of the considerations we would take into account would be connectivity and space. So if a multi-use pathway is more difficult to construct than a sidewalk, then that would be a consideration. But in the case of Cherrybrook Road specifically, I don't think, at least from recalling my conversations with the engineer, there's not a huge constructability or cost difference for a multi-use path versus a sidewalk. So hopefully that, partially answers your question. I don't know, David might have more.
And typically, the only other thing I'd agree with everything Anders said is probably on a project like this, if we got to go ahead, we would do some, those kind of assessments, like, is there enough space? And then definitely hear from the community what their preference is. I think, Councillor Young will agree. We've had the conversation in Lucasville about sidewalk versus multi-use pathway, and we heard loud and clear that it should be a multi-use pathway. East Preston, we had similar conversations there, whether it should be a sidewalk or multi-use pathway. There, loud and clear, we heard multi-use pathway. And so we would, if we got to go ahead and some funding to do something in Cherrybrook, that would be one of the steps that we made. The great thing is that they cost about the same. Even though a multi-use pathway is twice as wide, they're generally, about the same cost. So that gives us some flexibility.
Thank you. Sorry, if I can just make another quick follow-up question to that. So it sounds like a lot of that was sort of discussion based, and of course these things should be community led. You're responding to their needs. It does sound like there's no set trigger to consider other options from the sounds of that. And this is broader than just a multi-use path or a footpath, sharrows or signage or other options. It sounds like there's no current sort of policy in place to consider those when committing to major works on footpaths or roads.
Yeah, I think it's kind of ad hoc. It's context specific.
Yeah.
If there's already a sidewalk on two ends and then we're filling in the middle, well, then that's usually pretty obvious. That would be a sidewalk. But here in Cherrybrook, it's kind of it's almost a blank canvas. So we can have those conversations and see what the community's interested in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, David and Anders. Sorry, Nathan. Milena is next, followed by Miles and Peter Zimmer. So Milena.
All right. Thanks, Hugh. Just curious, Anders or anybody there. This is a 2-lane or a 4-lane road where a proposed sidewalk is warranted.
2-lane road. Yeah.
2 lanes. Okay. This is a rarity that this committee will hear me say. If this is the quickest option, then I would even vote for a multi-use path. As David already understands fully that multi-use paths, while HRM engineers tell us, folks with disabilities, that they're going to do their best, I don't think they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and nor are they going outside the blueprint. So multi-use paths in general for people who use wheelchairs, who are blind or partially sighted, who are deaf and hard of hearing, are quite difficult to navigate due to the space that's permitted. Given that I've heard here, I believe if I heard correctly, that we have quite a bit of space, then if the quickest option and the safest option to get people safely from bus stop to hub to school to wherever is a multi-use path, then I'll even put my hand up for that. Otherwise, for me, as a person representing walkability, it is always and always will be sidewalks. And Glenn, I heard what you said about Porter's Lake there. It is sad. It is also sad, that the fact that people don't want to look into their futures where they will at some point be needing a sidewalk or a bike lane, as I do promote bike lanes as well. I'd also like, Catherine, if you could repeat your recommendations, because you started at the top of your presentation, and I then would like to follow up with this committee following and putting a recommendation forward to the Transportation Standing Committee of some sort. Perhaps you would like to lead that after Catherine refreshes up the recommendations that were asked for at the beginning of this presentation. End of thought.
Okay, so could you let us know what those recommendations were quickly?
Sure. Yeah, so in addition to sharing the results, and this was Anders and ourselves doing this together, I recommend the HRM staff participate in future walking audits as a useful tool in the process of increased active transportation, and we do recommend the construction of a sidewalk on the Cherrybrook Road from Graham Creighton Junior High School to the United Baptist Church.
Okay, I would suggest then perhaps Milena, you would like to move. I think we should keep these separate. The specific item is recommending prioritizing either a sidewalk or a multiple use path to be planned and constructed on Cherrybrook Road. Is that roughly what you would like to move?
Yes, I would like to move that well, at least one member of this committee is in full support of that. Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, Olawumi, did you happen to get the wording there? Hello, Olawumi?
Yes, I'm typing that in the chat now.
Okay, you're typing it out?
Yes.
Okay, let's just check that then. Oh. Okay, I don't see it there yet. Are you typing it, Olawumi?
Yes, it's a drop now.
Am I looking in the wrong place? I'm looking at the chat box.
You just send it? I'm not seeing it on my end either, but
I'm not sending, I'm typing it to send now. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm not seeing it. Anyway, if I can recall.
I don't think it was sent yet, Hugh. I think Allow still typing it, you said. So we'll just have to hold tight until it's in the chat. Well, you don't have to hold tight until it's in the chat, but I think it will be in there soon.
In where? It's not in the chat box.
I believe she's still typing the motion and hasn't
Oh, I
sent
see.
it yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I also, misunderstood initially.
Okay. Anyway, I think you all heard me say that. If Milena is prepared to move that, do we have a seconder?
I can second that, Hugh. Douglas here.
Okay, Douglas, thank you. And we'll assume that the motion will come up on the chat box anymore.
Are we able to noodle with this motion? Like, can we tweak it at all?
It's up to Milena if she wants
Okay.
to accept a friendly amendment.
I'm willing to accept friendly amendments.
I'm just wondering, it feels like the funding seems to be a really big problem here. Like, I don't remember the number exactly, but it sounds like there's a lot of sidewalks that are a high priority. And so I'm wondering if the recommendation, rather than being like, I like the idea that staff continue to attend walking audits, and that this is flagged as a priority. Maybe this is just an entirely separate motion that you know.
Actually,
yeah.
What I suggested said that the either a sidewalk or a multi-use pathway in Cherrybrook should be prioritized. I didn't say quite what we've got there. So we're recommending that the Transportation Standing Committee direct staff, I guess, to give priority to a sidewalk or multi-use pathway in Cherrybrook. Does that make sense to you, Milena?
It does make sense to me. And the reason that I say that is because it has been stated here that a young woman was hit in this area, and I fully realize we are in dire need of sidewalks everywhere, and priorities are huge. But if people are getting hit, you know, something has to stop somewhere, and something needs to start to begin.
Yeah. So I think the wording should say that Regional Council gives priority to the planning and construction of the sidewalk or multi-use pathway, simply because I don't think, well, all right.
And I'm sorry, but I also, and again, David, please correct me if I misunderstood you. I believe that this community is within what you had stated, certain budget lines for sidewalk.
Urban service, yeah. So I guess what we're voting on is slightly different to what you're seeing in the chat box. Direct the Regional Council to give priority to the construction of a sidewalk.
I'm redrafting that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting you, but there's a number of hands up. Should we not listen to those before we vote on a motion? Because I'm sure that those hands are related to this issue.
Okay.
I don't know procedure. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, sure. People had their hand up before the motion was raised. So they clearly weren't going to talk about the motion. However, since we've got a motion and a seconder, we can now go to people with their hand up, I guess, and I'll take it in order. What we had earlier, just going to check this, is, okay. There's only two hands up now, and so Miles, what is your comment?
I guess what I'm going to say will add to support the motion and the request for the sidewalk. Having had to do this at school, when you do a fire safety or evacuation, you have to have an evacuation plan. And one of that would necessitate that the children in this school, and I'm assuming they would have to go to the church in case of a serious emergency. And I mean, I can't even believe that there wouldn't be a sidewalk there, because unless there's some other place that there is accessibility via sidewalk, I think that would just further add to what we're talking about. Because I know at any school that I've been at, that's one of the things we have to have. If we have to evacuate the school, the children have to move by foot and they have to go to a safe center, which in my mind would be the church. I can't imagine doing it on the road without a sidewalk with emergency procedures taking place. So I think it would just add to what we're already talking about. So that's the only point I want to raise from having had to do this. And God forbid we ever had to evacuate that school and children are on foot trying to make their way to where I assume the safe center would be, which would be the church.
Okay, thank you. So you're speaking in favor of the motion, clearly.
Oh, clearly.
Annika, you had a comment?
Yeah, and so not that I don't, I obviously support the specificity of the need for a multi-use pathway or sidewalk in Cherrybrook, but I think if I'm trying to understand the actual kind of root cause of what's going on here, which is not that we need another staff report about this, and will that make this happen faster, right? Like a staff report feels like, so I guess my thing is that I'm like, what I'm understanding, and I'd love to hear from David on this, is that the problem is that that council is not allocating enough money to sidewalk projects, period, this one included. And so I feel like the more the addressing the root cause of this is actually a funding issue of building this sidewalk or any other sidewalk need that where other people are also getting hit. Like I mean, people are getting hit all the time by cars in this city. And so like, there's obviously a massive need for sidewalks all over the place. So yeah, I think it's kind of like should we be asking for more, and should we be asking for something more specific than another staff report? Should we be asking for more money?
And this is Melina. Sorry, I'm sorry, my friend, but I didn't ask for a staff report. I was proposing that we support the recommendations. No more staff reports.
Oh, sorry, that's in the chat, Melina.
Oh, is it? Okay, well then that wasn't read. Then I certainly do not want a staff report. No, we do not need another staff report.
Sorry, Melina, can I come in here?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, for us to be able to make a recommendation to Transportation Standing Committee, we need to make the recommendation to direct the Chief Administrative Officer for the staff to make a staff report, to direct the staff to make a staff report regarding this motion we need to pass. We can't just go ahead without, we can't go ahead. We need to go through the staff. And before the staff can make any recommendation, they need to put a staff report forward for the Transportation Standing Committee to be able to deliberate on. I don't know if you understand me on this.
Yeah, thank you, Olawumi. I understand that this is the standard wording for a motion from this committee, and I guess we're stuck with it. We can't change it. So we're stuck with it. But what I don't see in the motion as we now have is the word prioritize. And we definitely are recommending that this route, whether it's a sidewalk or a multiple use pathway, be prioritized. Correct, Melina?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I think on that point, then, we've had some discussion on the motion. I would like now to move to the question. Those in favor of the motion as we've described it, please say aye or raise your hand. Anyone? Oh, okay. Yes, I see hands raised and people saying aye. Any opposed, please say nay or raise your hand. Any opposed? I see Elizabeth McDonald's hand. Is that correct?
Yes, I think Allow Me might be working on an updated motion that has a bit more detail that says that Active Transportation Standing Committee recommend that TSC and includes the prioritization piece, but I'll let Allow Me speak to that. I just wanted to make sure there's a final motion in the chat that.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yes, yes, the wording is correct. Just to drop it in the chat.
The Brook is missing from Cherry Brook as well.
Yeah.
I wanted to make just a quick note as well on the speed limits. When we did our walk, I think there were only maybe a couple speed limits and they were close by the school, but along the route there might have been a couple, but they were hidden by trees. And they also have several speed bumps, but that doesn't stop the cars from slowing down when they're going through the community.
Okay.
Especially at nighttime.
Okay, Sherry, thank you. So we're still waiting. We're still waiting for. Sorry, we're still waiting for the final draft of the motion. So who was that just speaking?
It's Anika. I'm just wondering, like, can we have this discussion though about like putting forward a motion that's actually going to do what we want it to do, or do something different than what's already happening? So my understanding is that there's already it's known that this is a need and that this is already something that's like in planning. Is that correct? Or is this something that hasn't been explored, isn't in the process? Yeah.
Well, as we learned today, this was an early stage. There's been no detailed planning or costing. So clearly, this has a way to go. Whatever, even if it has priority, it's not going to happen for a while, for sure. But I guess as I said, we're stuck with the issue that TSC has to direct the CAO to prepare a staff report. That's just the way this committee works. I'm sorry. Is this let's see. Okay, so now what we see here is the staff report would be on ATAC to recommend to the TSC to request the CAO to direct staff to prepare a report to prioritize the sidewalk and or I should say multi-use pathway within the Cherry Brook community. So that's the motion actually we just voted on, and I hope people were okay with that. Any concern with that? I see Peter Zimmer's hand up.
Okay,
Peter.
Thanks for recognizing me. I'll put my hand down. I guess I'd like to say we've had this very collegial conversation with many different points of view, but I think we're all heading in the same direction. While ATAC is bound up in the bureaucracy and the rules of how it shall be framed, what's to stop half of us or 3/4 of us signing an open letter to the citizens of Halifax, to the citizens of Nova Scotia, to the council, to the CAO, putting our point of view as semi-experts, because we've been engaged in this conversation. We've been brought together by some of us, the organizations that we're members of or representing here. But we just do this off the books, as it were, and launch it publicly. I'm very interested in having further conversations with anybody who wants to see things happen much more quickly. People are dying. People are being scared out of the best quality of their life because cars are dangerous. The roads are ill-designed, ill-suited to serving those of us who don't own cars or have ready access to cars. And that's a matter of equity and virtue. And I don't know. Let me know. You've got my emails. They're in the headers to the notices. Let me know if you want to carry on this conversation together. but
Okay,
separate
thank you,
from
sir.
ATAC.
Thank you, Peter. But we should do things in order. We've had a vote on this motion, and I didn't hear anyone say nay. So I see Elizabeth Pugh's got your hand up.
Yeah, I think that the wording still isn't right. I don't think we are prioritizing the sidewalk and multi-use pathways. That makes it sound like they have already been decided on and designed, and we like what's happened. I think
Yeah,
we're prioritizing the walkability of the community in, whatever way turns out to be appropriate. So I just think we need to be careful.
Yes, and perhaps just on that point, we can just tweak that slightly to prioritize a sidewalk or multi-use pathway within. Okay? Could you make that change, Olawumi? And while that's happening, we've had a vote, and as far as I can see, everyone is in agreement that we vote for this motion. So that passes. On Peter's point, yes, I'm frustrated too. I think many of us are, that we're stuck with this cumbersome process that requires a staff report every time we make a recommendation. But there it is. And if you want to go ahead with your guerrilla tactics, Peter, please do so. We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
This discussion is on the public record. It can be accessed. I don't know, it may take a day or two to get up there. But yeah, you can watch this whole conversation, listen to it, see a computer-aided butchered transcript of it all. But yeah, and you can point other people to it. You can send them an email with an attachment that says, start watching this recording that we're making here this evening, at minute 73 or whatever, wherever we are. You can do that. It's a tool.
Okay, thank you, Pete. Okay, thank you, Peter. I think we need to move on because we have another item, which is the staff report from David McIsaac. So
Mr. Chair, then this is Melina. So how has this passed then?
Yes, that's passed.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, good. David, can we have your staff report, please?
Yes. So thanks to the AT team who sent me some updates on some of their projects today so I could pass them along. There is public engagement happening on the Midtown AAA Bikeways project starting on Saturday. So there is a good old Shape Your City website set up for this. So if you just go to Shape Your City Halifax and look for Midtown AAA Bikeways, you can see information on the project, the survey, and the public engagement sessions and locations on the 15th and 18th of February. And that's looking at potential changes to Bell Road, the Halifax Commons, Wellsford Street, Quingate, and a bit of Vernon Street. So kind of the middle of the peninsula. Thanks to folks who took part in the Graham's Grove public engagement. We're getting close to finishing that and coming up with the preferred options that our consultant will do 30% designs on. What else can I give you an update on here? This year's capital budget that council is considering from AT, we've got $534,000 in that budget that is allocated to community groups to build, maintain multi-use pathways. So lately, I would say a lot of funding has been going toward rehabilitation. So renewal of sections of the Atlantic View Trail, a really big recapitalization of the Blueberry Run facility between Porters Lake and Tree Fathom Harbor, I guess it is. Musquodoboit Trailway. So these are a lot of facilities that have been super popular. They've been around for a while, and they're getting some TLC. Another one is First Lake Greenway out in Lower Sackville. We have granted about $50,000 to various education promotion projects recently, and one emergency grant to the Musquodoboit Trailway Association for a bridge inspection. Last thing on grants is that there will be a call for the next round of education promotion grants starting on March 3rd, and the applications will be due April 30th. And then the only other thing to report on is we talked about a little bit already, our efforts to see how we can get more sidewalks or multi-use pathways for that matter in rural HRM communities. We're looking to get our report back to council on what we heard during our public engagement in March. So exactly when that will happen, the report comes is still to be determined, but it's getting closer. There's lots of other stuff, I guess, but I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you, David. Let's just, since time is getting short, I think I'll just ask if people have a question or concern to you, could you put your hand up? Okay, I see Annika, followed by Milena. Whoops, just a moment. Followed by Nathan. So, and then Peter Zimmer and Annika. Oh, okay. All right, so Annika first.
Sorry there. Yeah, I feel like I ask this every time, and we know we have lots of projects that are behind and are desperately in need of. And since it's budget season right now, I'm just wondering if you can comment on, like, I know there's labor shortages, I know there's supply chain shortages, but would an awful lot more money being allocated to AT change things drastically for HRM? If you could, if council waived no, I'm sorry, it's the end of the day here. Yeah, if council had a really pivotal change in their priorities and allocated a lot of money, would it make a really big difference, or are all those other constraints still really slowing things down?
I mean, those constraints are there. I mean, there's pressure on the labor supply. There's pressure on the construction sector. So that's a factor. I would say that more money for next year's capital budget is kind of pointless, just because what we can build is kind of already scoped out in terms of what's ready to put out for tender. I think staff kind of gets a signal based on the capital plan that's part of that budgeting process. So the budget is basically what's in the next year's budget with actual projects, and the plan that's also approved goes out sort of 9 years beyond that. So if staff sees tight budgets for 3 years, we kind of that's how we organize our work. If we see budgets that are a bit higher or gradually increasing, then we try to organize our resources that way. So that's how that would impact it. And I'm sorry, does that answer your question?
Does, and I'm using you as a cheat for my remarks that I'm planning for next week,
okay.
Talking to council. But I think I also want to make sure that would actually address kind of this urgent need for this very obvious urgent need that we need to put money.
Yeah, I think money is great, but it's also, money's great, obviously. But there's also, if we need to acquire property, then we need the time from 1 or 2 people in corporate real estate to do that. So it's the staff resources as well. It's all stuff we do and that we've been doing. and it's
Okay,
we kind of take our clue from that plan for in terms of like how much they want us to accomplish in the future years.
Okay, thank you, David. We have Milena's hand up next.
Yeah. Thanks, David. I'm always applauding because you're always bringing in what the staff report, positive. Let's jump away from the budget for a second here and the money and the finances that are being provided, because in my previous history and through knowledge, because you've been on this team as well, I'm starting to find that HRM engineers in particular are discrediting a lot of the public engagement that has been happening. For example, David, have you walked the Almond Street bike lane recently, particularly at the crosswalk at Windsor and Almond Street and Roby and Almond? Because it is a complete and utter disaster for people with disabilities, and a sighted pedestrian almost got hit at a diagonal crossing. Okay. And what we're hearing from HRM staff post-infrastructure for active transportation is that they are still prioritizing truck lanes and turns. So everything we're doing here seems to go underneath somewhere, and it doesn't matter how much money is being put in. It doesn't matter. It doesn't seem to be making any matters. My frustration is not so much so with you, but I do want to ask you, have you walked any of the infrastructure that has been put down? One, and two, I will make this known to everyone that one of the top engineers in the city, and I quote, said to me that they are doing the best that they can to make everyone safe with active transportation, even though it may be complicated and disorientating to the blind and partially sighted. Close quote. End of thought.
You have
Melina, yeah. So I've been on Almond Street a number of times. I've seen the corner of obviously Windsor and Almond. And I think there's been lots of conversations with the design engineer and that team about that. So I mean, I think they're aware. I understand the issue. I'm not sure if I have a lot else to say. I think
I'm asking if you've walked it. You're the main guy here.
Well,
I
I've
look
walked
to
it.
you.
I definitely walked it. I've walked it back and forth.
Not the bike lane, the crosswalks and other crosswalks that are going. I want bike lanes. I want people biking, but I also want to be safe. I want all of us to be safe. It's just I just thought I'd put that comment out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Melina. Nathan, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. So, David, just a quick question. Just wondered if you had any updates regarding the Shearwater Flyer Trail connection to Dartmouth waterfront in terms of the engagement and the plans there.
Yeah, so we have folks will know that there's one of our main gaps in the regional kind of active transportation network is a 3-kilometer gap between Woodside Ferry Terminal and where the Shearwater Flyer starts. Just before the Shearwater Flyer base. So we did a bit of planning work a few years ago and came up with an option for a 3-meter wide multi-use pathway. And we went back and did some more work to come up with an option that would basically kind of narrow the road curb to curb and have like better and wider and more separated AT spaces through there. So we're going to organize a bit of a stakeholder engagement on that in the next month. So groups on this committee will get an invitation to that. And right now we're looking at March 25th for the public engagement, but that is just kind of penciled in right now, but it'll be around that time at the end of March. And what we want to do with that engagement is kind of bring this new option and just have that sort of out for people to look at and comment on. And then we'll take a report to council for their direction. What's interesting about that corridor is the street's up for a big rehabilitation. So like something like more than 50% of the curb needs to be replaced. A lot of the asphalt needs replaced. So if this is the time to make a bigger change to the cross section, or this is the time if we're ever going to do it. So probably the next ATAC meeting, I'll have more specific information when that engagement is. And before then, hopefully you'll have heard from me for a separate kind of stakeholder discussion.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. And Peter Zimmer, you have your hand up.
Yes. David, I'd like to just get an update on what is happening with the proposed request for proposals apropos a pilot project about shared micromobility, shared e-scooters, shared. Has the RFP been published? Have we gotten, what's the timeline for decisions or an interim progress report?
Sure. So the RFP has been issued to identify one, maybe two private sector suppliers of those services. The procurement process is still open, or the RFP is not still open, but the decision and awarding process is still open. And I suspect there'll be some public announcements, in the next month or so. And the target is still to launch that service in spring, summer 2025. And Brittany McLean, who used to be on this committee as the rep for Cycling Nova Scotia, is the project manager for that now, working for HRM.
Okay.
So we're on track for that one. So yeah, that's, I guess, more or less what I can report on that.
Okay, I think we've gone through those people who had questions or comments. Are there any more? If so, let me know right now. No? Okay, thank you then, David. We've managed to get through our agenda in time. Just to remind everyone that item 9.2.1, as was, has been deferred until our next meeting in March. And our next meeting is March the 20th. So please make sure you note that in your calendar. And that's the end of our agenda. And I'd like to thank you all for participating. I think we managed a few things at least. And we had an excellent presentation regarding the Cherrybrook issue. I don't think I need a motion to adjourn, but just in case I do.
You do, but you don't need a seconder.
Exactly. So anyone moving to adjourn?
I will.
Sorry, who was that?
Glenn.
Okay, thank you very much. Then in that case, I'll thank you all again, and we'll see you hopefully in March. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Bye-bye.
Good night.